Hey boss, Emily here. Before we jump in, a quick disclaimer. I am currently on my maternity leave. So the episode you're listening to right now is brand new, but it was recorded weeks, if not months ago. Just know that going in case we make any references that don't feel quite as timely as we usually are. And know that I'll be back in the studio recording brand new episodes for you starting in the new year. In the meantime, enjoy this brand new, never heard before episode. And thanks as always for subscribing, sharing, rating, and reviewing the Bossed Up podcast. I really appreciate you being here. Hey, and welcome to the Bossed Up podcast, episode 481. I'm your host, Emily Aries, the founder and CEO of Bossed Up. And today I want to talk about one of the hardest parts of job searching, and that is just getting started. There's a lot of episodes we've done here and a lot of resources on my website all about the job search and the intricacies of the modern job search and the complexities of navigating technology involved in the modern job search. But at the end of the day, none of that advice matters if you can't motivate yourself to even get started. And let me tell you, I've seen countless women, countless clients of ours who've gone through our higher job search accelerator get really hung up on that first step, get really stuck in not knowing if the timing is right or, what we even would do, how we would start, or is it even worth the trouble, kind of avoiding the question, even if it's gnawing at you. And I think the real important takeaway here is that this is not a logical argument that you need to make with yourself. You don't need to persuade yourself to get started. This is not about just the game plan for how to get started. This is really about the emotion behind getting started. You got to figure out how to tap into your own inner resources, your intrinsic motivation that's actually going to get you out of analysis paralysis and into movement, into some forward momentum, which can be hard when you're feeling scared and stuck and uncertain. And honestly, what job seeker isn't uncertain? It's sort of part of the package deal you get when you decide to wade into the unknown. So I've got 3 tips for you to incorporate into getting yourself started, getting out of park and into drive to get your job search underway. The first is to give yourself the space and time to really tap into and connect with your vision for the future that you want for yourself, for your family, for your career. This is where you have to spend time not just thinking about what you envision for yourself, but why that matters to you. What is your why behind the impetus to leave? Now, one thing that gets really hard for folks is when you are feeling like you're stuck at a toxic job or your current workplace has become untenable. Most of my clients can only articulate what they don't want. They struggle often with articulating what they do want. So I like to play the fast forward game. I like to play the 10 years into the future game, or maybe it's just 2 years into the future. If I waved a magic wand and everything your heart desires came true, what would your life look like? That is your journal prompt. That is the conversation I want you to have with your loved ones or partner or bestie. That is the idea I want you to aerate a little, like swirl it around in your wine glass if it helps you brainstorm. Talk it out, write it out, but spend some quality time tapping in to yourself and your own desires. We are so busy nowadays. We feel so much pressure in so many different aspects in our life that we rarely even allow ourselves the space and time to dream. And I'm not saying this isn't about the material showings of success. I'd have a Bugatti and I would live in a mansion and I wouldn't work a day in my life. That's fine. Write that out if you got to get it out of your system. But beyond the superficial tokens of success, how would you feel? How would you spend your time? What would give you a sense of purpose and fulfillment? What would add joy and positivity and peace into your life? And once you start to articulate that in as descriptive as terms as you can, I would wake up in the morning and here's what I would do first. Here's how I would feel. Here's what I would be eating. Here's what I would be getting dressed in. Here's how I'd be spending my time. Here's how that would make me feel. Once you've written out like your dream day of work, 2 to 10 years into the future, then I want you to articulate what it is that you value based on what you just wrote down. Based on what I'm aiming for, what I'm really valuing at this time in my life is quality time with family, or is financial stability, or is my health and my mental well-being. What are the values behind what you just articulated, and really giving yourself just some kind of inner compass to start guiding you forward and to actually tap into the emotions, the feelings that are going to propel you forward into what can be a scary, uncertain, volatile environment and world, which is the job search process. It's a pain in the ass. Like, people avoid it. I get it. It's hard work. It's uncertain. It's exhausting. So you need to know what's in it for you. You're with them. Like, what's in it for me? That feeling of peace, of quality time, of health, of mental well-being, whatever it is, I need that to be central to why you should get started, because only you are going to be able to motivate yourself to take that first step forward. You got to know why it's worth doing so. And then find a way, if you can, to post those values or that vision somewhere you can see it regularly so that you can really feel those feelings in a way that will help you overcome the procrastination, the avoidance, the denial that you have to make your first move, okay? So tap into your feelings first to even begin the journey that is the job search. Then, step 2 here is to make a plan of action for how you can make it as frictionless as possible for you to get started. What are your individual needs, schedule, options? What I'm trying to say here is, like, how can you make it easy to just dip your toe in the water, just to get a little bit acclimatized to what the job search is like these days? I want you to consider your schedule. We've got 2 really helpful podcast episodes already on how to create a sustainable job search routine. One for folks who are job searching full time. Perhaps you're unemployed, or you've been laid off, or you've been caregiving. That's a great episode for you, because that's going to look really different than the other episode we have on how to create a sustainable job search routine when you have a full-time job. Your schedule is going to look really different. Your approach is going to look really different. So check those episodes out if you want to get more examples of what a concrete job search routine can look like. But make it manageable for yourself. Do not set unrealistic expectations for yourself, because the minute you fail to achieve them, you're just going to get so disappointed in yourself and down in the dumps that your motivation is going to go out the window. So think about your individual preferences and needs. Am I a social person who likes talking things out? Then I should get my ass to happy hour. I should go to my industry events. I should go to some conferences. I should go see who's who and what's going on in my industry and talk it out with people as I practice my elevator speech in real time. If I am an introvert, and that sounds like a true nightmare to me, then maybe I'll start by scrolling the job boards and just seeing what's out there by looking electronically first. So think about your own individual preferences. Think about your own schedule limitations, constraints, and opportunities. And finally, think about your own approach to accountability. I love Gretchen Rubin's book on the 4 tendencies. She talks about obligers, who always stand out in my mind because it's such a concrete concept. But if you're an obliger, you're a lot more likely to show up to, let's say, tennis practice if you have a tennis partner who's waiting on you to be there, right? You've got a built-in accountability buddy. If you are a rebel like me, you are almost less likely to show up if other people are asking you to show up there, if you don't think it makes sense for your own personal needs, wants, desires, and purpose, right? You're asking why? Why do you want me to do this? Like, this isn't an important use of my time, so I'm going to rebel against it. So knowing your own sort of relationship to accountability, what works for you in terms of holding yourself accountable, Set yourself up for success by incorporating others strategically, even at this early stage. Yes, that takes being vulnerable with people. It takes being willing to articulate that you might actually want to try for something better or different. And that can feel risky, I know. But as Brene Brown always says, right, like vulnerability is the cornerstone of every real relationship. So take those risks, incorporate others in your process early and often, and don't incorporate just anyone, right? Invite the people in who you trust to honor your vulnerability with love and support, and to match that trust with trust along the way. And finally, my last boss tip for you here is to just rip off that Band-Aid and get started. I'm a big believer in Teresa Amabile and Stephen Kramer's principle known as the progress principle, which says that if you make some forward momentum, you have a little boost of intrinsic motivation that makes you want to make more forward momentum. Progress begets progress. So whatever your plan is, no matter how perfect or imperfectly you start, move forward. And that sensation of forward momentum is going to create a little bit of like cognitive inertia. Like an object in motion is going to remain in motion. So don't wait for the perfect plan to get moving. Start before you feel ready. Jump into the job search however you see fit. At this point, you've already clarified your why behind your vision for your future. You've articulated something of a strategy or plan of how you want to proceed, how you can set yourself up for success. At this point, it's like, don't overthink it. Just start. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be risk-free. So you might as well wade in and test the waters and just see how it goes. It's like, it's never going to be a clean break. You know what I mean? You're never going to wake up one day and say, okay, I'm officially ready to start my job search, and it's just going to be a process that is over and done with in the next week or two, right? This is a voyage. As Herminia Ibarra put it in an older book that I love to reference called Working Identity, Unconventional Strategies for Reinventing Your Career, she describes the career transition process as being in transit, right? Transit is in the middle of the word transition. And really what stood out to me is a metaphor she used where starting a job search can kind of feel like you've got one foot on a ship that's ready to sail across the ocean, and you've got your other foot still firmly planted on the ground. You don't even really know where you're headed yet. You don't know the destination you'll arrive at on the other side of that journey. But in order to start, you have to be willing to kind of pick up that other foot and leave the land you've been on behind. And it can just leave you kind of feeling pulled in multiple directions. Like who you are and who you have been is leaving you behind. You're transitioning, you're changing, you're evolving, you're on a voyage to who you will become. And so if it feels vulnerable, if it feels a little destabilizing, you are probably on the right path. And the most important thing to do is to move, to get moving, to get started. If you've been feeling that pull, if you've been thinking about what's next for you, if you've been, haphazardly exploring, keeping one eye on the job boards for months now, it's time to get real about this. So to recap, start with that vision. Where do you see yourself in 2 to 10 years, and why? What is it? What are the values underneath that vision that's actually going to motivate you to step forward into the unknown? Step 2, create an action plan, some kind of strategy that specifically caters to your personal preferences, your personal availability, and your personal accountability style. And finally, just get started. If I can help you get started, know that my job search program, Hired, is an on-demand, bingeable video course available at bossedup.org/gethired. It's a great sort of fast-track course to get you up to speed on the modern intricacies of how to practically do the work that it requires to get a job in today's market. We get into everything from like clarifying your narrative so that you can use it as a elevator pitch at those happy hours or even at an interview someday, to the mechanics of writing a hell of a resume, like a modern resume that actually gets the job done and knows how to navigate the ATS systems that are involved in pretty much every hiring process, all the way through negotiating your offer. So there's so much in Hired. Check it out now at bossedup.org/gethired. And as always, I'd love to keep the conversation going after the episode in the Bossed Up Courage community on Facebook and in the Bossed Up LinkedIn group. Until next time, let's keep bossing in pursuit of our purpose. And together, let's lift as we climb.